Hello, my name's Stephen Raywood and I'm presenting here an application of ExcelFlow, which is a new flowchart or flowsheet simulator in Microsoft Excel. My company is Midas Tech, which is an acronym for Mining Industry Data Analytics Service. Now, if you're not a mining guy, don't think this seminar isn't for you. It is. ExcelFlow is a general system that can be applied to anything in which you can have a flowchart. Now, I was given the opportunity to present ExcelFlow at a minerals engineering conference, but there I decided to focus on the presentation from a research viewpoint. And I referred the guests to this presentation, which is an example of its application. The example of the application is mineral processing, but really you don't have to be a mineral processor to understand this application. So I'm now going to move off this PowerPoint presentation and go straight to Excel. And I'll go to Flowsheet. Now, Excel is a brilliant system, completely underutilized. Now, this particular talk is not a course on how to use ExcelFlow. It's simply an overview of how it can be applied. The course takes about one day, but then it presumes you have certain Excel skills, and so there's enhanced courses which teach Excel skills, which are useful for creating applications in ExcelFlow. You'll see, for example, I use my own ribbon commands. Now, and I have quite a few commands which aren't necessarily all to do with simulation. So we basically start with a flow chart of what we describe. In this case, it's a series of 7 cells, flotation cells that make up a rougher bank, and each cell is named, and that's critical to being able to use ExcelFlow, is to be able to use names in your flowchart. You'll notice that in Excel, you can download icons. So you're not limited to simple shapes like circles and squares and so forth. And I put everything into this frame. The skill set to create this flowchart is available in online courses. Now, I take this flowchart. Sorry, I won't apply it yet. I'll also explain what I'm doing. So here we see connectors and we see shapes. The shapes are abbreviated by, have at the start, flotation underscore. That tells Excel Analyzer that this is a flotation device. And that it could have worked it out by looking at the shape, but it's better at this stage to keep things consistent and use the shape name. And we have these connectors. Some of the connectors are final cons, and this is the final tail. So I create a worksheet called connector. Now, this stuff up here, I'm not going to discuss in too much depth. That's really to be covered in the course. But what we'll look at here is the string properties. And basically, we define a string mineral processing, they use the word stream rather than connector. And this is the way the data is laid out. So in ExcelFlow, you can lay the data out any way you want. It doesn't have to be mineral processing. It could be electrical information, such as voltage. Let's not digress too much from mineral processing. And so that's the connector information. And here we have a flotation model. There is the extra information on the right, which is indeed important for the simulator, but we won't go to it in depth here. Now these, I heavily use cell styles, color styles, and these are the parameters of the unit model. I define what the inputs are, which is a connector, and I define the outputs over here. I heavily use name ranges. So over here, I'm just giving information about the way that the shape relates to the inputs, connectors, or I'm going to use the word streams from now on, input streams and output streams via the connection point. So a connection point is back on the flow sheet. It's where this connects to the shape. So I've shown flotation template and connector template for this application. That's largely all you need. I do have another worksheet called globals, which is information which is used on all produced worksheets. I won't explain this too much in depth. So now let us look at the model itself. We see a feed, and from that we make a series of calculations and we end up with our con and our tail. Now notice in these calculations we referred to the feed here, which I've said over here is an input. And in the connector, when I transfer the data, I refer to flotation template. And it's getting information from flotation template from the final results. Now it takes a while to get used to this. Once you get used to it, it's easy. So now we'll show an application. We simply run this, and we want to set flotation analysis. We want to set the flow sheet. So we say set. So it says select the flow sheet. This is the flow sheet. We go here and we select it. Now we want to process the flow sheet. There are various options on how we process it, but we're just going to say process flow sheet. We don't see any results, but it is being processed. So in VBA, it now knows what the flow sheet is and the relationships between the connectors and the shapes. I now want to relate the connectors and the shapes to data in the workbook, even though that data may not exist. So we say set. and it's just called direct. So the various options you have here, but direct means that the name of the shape or the name of the connector will be the name of the worksheet. And we run this, which says, do we want it to be a worksheet or a name range within a worksheet? We want it to be dedicated worksheets, so we can have worksheet. We want it to go into flotation.xlsm, so we say apply. We do the same for stream. So when it comes to this, already means that I can do things like hyperlinking between the flowsheet to the data and the data to the flowsheet. But there isn't any data yet, it hasn't been created. So go back here. But if I did have the data, I'll be able to hyperlink. So we've now read in the flowsheet. Now we do something with the flowsheet. We have two different ribbons. FAN was the analysis of the flowsheet. FApp is a flowsheet application. So because of the way the ribbons work, we now want to transfer the flowsheet data. And we determine the application, which is over here. I want to copy worksheet, which means I'm going to do a copy of the templates and create the worksheets for each stream and for each shape. Now, there's some commands here which are seems just a little bit slow, but unfortunately if I don't use them, I do get activation errors. So now, even though I set it, I have to load it. I want all the information. Well, this is where it's getting the template information. And the templates are in flotation.xlsm. Now, when I run these applications, it uses other workbooks, which is why some others are being shown. And obviously, I need to hide these a little bit more, but for the moment, don't worry about them. I will just open up flotation.xlsm, view, switch windows. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is simply run it. Now, this isn't the simulation itself. That will be the second step. It's basically copying all the template files and creating new worksheets. So obviously this is fast and it's automated. But in simple terms, it still thinks that it's a template file. What we want to do is replace all this template information with the actual shapes and connectors. And we could go along and we do replace, but this is how the simulator works. It's actually looking at each of these, looking at the flow sheet, and it's recreating the information about which shape it is, and what it's connected to. So these light blue areas are what will be changed. Now, you don't have to worry about it. It's done automatically by the system. So now goes another application, set, and it's called copy model. Now, obviously, there's lots of other applications here. They're all flowsheet oriented. So when I created this software, it wasn't just to use for simulation. There are lots of other applications where you have flowsheet information. Initialize it. Nothing happens initialization because it has all the information it needs. So I've just kept these as the 4 commands, and now I run it. And what it's done is do a replace of all those connected informations. And so by doing, it's done all the calculations, and we can have a look at the con. We'll just go to say 7 con. This tells me the value of the con in the 7th cell. Similarly, each of the flotation models have been created. So it uses very simple concepts to simulate what otherwise would be a fairly complex system. And to do this manually, I don't know how long it will take you. A week, a month, I don't know. When you make an error, you got to go back, check everything. It's error prone not using this method. So this method automates everything. It's fast, it's simple, and it's very useful for teaching purposes. So that's really all I'm going to discuss here. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to hearing from you if you want to do one of the courses on being trained to use it. And I'm a very approachable guy, so if you are interested, just write to me. I'll write back. The name's Stephen Rayward on LinkedIn. Very easy to find. I look forward to hearing from you.